Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about cables. And cables are really important because if they don't work properly, we have trouble. And if we have trouble, then we call Herbie at ShiftWorks and say, how come things don't work right? And so what we're going to do is I have a variety of cables, and we're going to go through and put them through the test, and you're going to get to see the differences in cables, even though they all look pretty much the same. Now we're going to start with the GM. This is in a wrapper, a GM wrapper. It's brand new GM cable. God knows how long they're going to keep making them. Maybe with the news about Toyota, they make things a little while longer. Anyway, sorry about that. This is a GM cable. You know, they all look pretty much the same, but they're not. The first thing we want to measure on any cable is we want to know the travel. We want to know how much that cable can move in and out, what its travel is, okay? Now the GM cable, you push it, it'll go all the way in to this little tubing here. The purpose of this little tubing is to keep the cable straight as it exits the housing, because when you get back past this point of the cable, it's really it's like a wire. It might be coated in steel, it might be coated in plastic, but it's still a wire, and it needs to be kept straight as it exits. If the cable is not crimped properly here at the cable bulkhead, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's crimped all the way around on the GM cable. That's a place where they often break, and if they break there, then the cable, when it exits the housing, will buckle, and you lose cable travel and function. So this cable pushes all the way in to the eyelet here, and all the way out, and what you have is you have 2 1/4 inches of travel. That's good. Most of these cables need to travel at least 2 inches to shift all the gears of the transmission. If they don't do 2 inches, it's not going to work. So this is 2 1/4, the GM cable. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to take the cable and we're going to bend it all weird like. And this is how your cable's going to look in your car. And if you take the GM cable, you notice it still works, even bent at 2 right angles. And that's what it's supposed to do. And your GM cable is going to give you an easy 20 years of service. It's a good cable. It's very heavy. They won't make them like that anymore today, but it's a big, heavy cable, and probably doesn't need to be that heavy. In fact, it'd probably be better if it wasn't that heavy. But nevertheless, good cables. Okay. Now the next cable we have is a reproduction cable. Manufacturer is unspoken. And if we look at this cable, it is crimped all the way around. It doesn't look like the crimp is as good as on the GM cable, but nevertheless it is sort of crimped all the way around. And if we take this cable and we measure the travel on this cable, we are, well, all the way in, we have travel of not quite 2 inches. It's about, at the max here, 1 7/8 inches. That's not real good. That can be a problem when you set up your cable. It's likely with this one, if you have a 3-speed transmission, you may not be able to get low gear just because it's not traveling enough. It works pretty freely. Now we're going to bend it, and we'll see what happens here. We bend it in a nice little angle, and it works pretty good that way too. So the only problem I see with this cable is it doesn't have a lot of travel in it. We have another reproduction cable, and we'll see what the travel is on that one. This one is much better. This one's 2 1/4 inches on this repo cable. Feels a little. It's kind of funny, but anyway, 2 1/4. That's really good. That's way better than 1 7/8 inches. Now we're going to bend it like we're supposed to, and the cable doesn't bend. It doesn't work. Okay, so they had good travel, but when you bend it the way they got to bend, it doesn't work. You can't. It doesn't even work. You can't move it. Well, that's not good either, is it? So now we got two repo cables, both with different problems. Here we have well, I don't know. Yeah, here's a cable that I had made for me by a really good manufacturer, and it has these adjustable bulkheads. I never entered into a deal with these guys just because they wanted me to buy too many cables. And anyway, but here's a cable where, boy, that's nice. Works really good. No problems. And the travel on this thing, let's see, half an inch, is 2.5 inches. So here we have a cable, good travel and flexibility, and it works when bent. But these are not for sale. These I have made for me, and they also have the adjustable bulkheads. They're gray, they're not black, they're industrial-like, like this one, like a good cable manufacturer. And these, I'm going to measure the travel on this thing. So let's see, it's about a quarter. Subtract a quarter inch from it. 2.5. So we have travel of 2.5 inches. And when we take this cable, and this one's very flexible. It doesn't hurt it. This one travels nice. Look at how easy that works. It doesn't. Look at that. It's like in a Z, and it's still working. Well, that's a cable we sell. So there's everything you need to know about cables. And what you need to know is buy the GM. GM's a good cable. Do not buy the cheap reproduction cables because you're going to have a problem. You can't buy this one. And this one you can buy from us, and it's a good cable. And it's cheaper than the GM cable, and we know the GM is not going to be making cables much longer. Thanks a lot.